Hi and welcome to another episode of Tara Talks. I'm delighted to be here today with the amazing Lisa. She is a business strategist, #1 best-selling author, a Thrive Global author, speaker, business guru, mindset whiz, podcaster, and one of the most awesome women I think I've ever had the pleasure to connect with via Zoom. Lisa, it's so great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. And welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Our last conversation just lit me up, and I'm so excited to be here doing this again on your podcast. So thank you.
Pleasure. So I would love it if you would just share a little bit about yourself, your business history with our listeners so they can get to know about you a little bit more.
So I started my career as a nurse, working in the intensive care unit and working shifts and night shift and holidays and weekends. And that was the path that was set out for me by my mom. Growing up, she told me who I could be friends with, who I couldn't be friends with, who I could date, where I'd go to school, that I'd be a nurse. And if I didn't listen, there would be heck to pay. So she had, I believe, the best intentions, but a very clear career path of where my life was going. Me as a kid, I love to write stories. I love to put on acts, and I'd be choreographing routines for my friends. And I was always reading and writing and speaking and performing. And I never got to express that because nursing is very calculated and structured and really no room for error. So I got into this profession, and it taught me a lot about empathy and hard work. But I missed the flow and the fun and the creation side that I was craving so much. So it wasn't until I met my husband, who'd always been entrepreneurial, that said, hey, babe, you have a knack for people following you. Like, have you ever noticed that? Like, you know, when we're at a party, people gravitate to you. Or at the time, I was teaching group fitness classes on the side to combat stress when I was in nursing school and a nurse. And he was saying, have you ever noticed, you know, your classes have the most people in them. They're the most packed. Why don't you do this for yourself? And I was like, no. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. Like, I don't even know. I come from a blue collar working class family. I don't know the first thing about being an entrepreneur. And he's like, we'll learn. We'll do it together. And I opened my first fitness business, but I was trading hours for dollars. So the only time I was making money is when I was face-to-face training, coaching, teaching people. And I thought there's got to be a better way. So that's where the online, this was before like Beachbody on Demand came about and all the big, you know, boys were doing it and girls were doing it. And I had an online program. And that just opened my eyes to the power of online business and how you can stop trading dollars for hours, start serving people around the world. And it was really his belief that made me believe. I didn't actually believe in myself first because I never really was allowed to make decisions and gain those critical skills that you need and trust your gut. I didn't know how to trust my gut. It was like someone else make the decision and like someone else do it for me. Yeah. So entrepreneurship not only grew me as, you know, a coach and a strategist, but as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, it just opened up this whole world of skills for me that make me better in all areas of my life.
Amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
So I was 25 when I met my husband. And I'm originally from small town Pennsylvania. He's from Ontario. So he's from here in Canada where we are. And we were the Dominican on a holiday where we met, which was so random. Did long distance for almost a year. Wow. And then I moved up here in 2006. So that was when I was moving, one of my stipulations, if I was going to move to a different country, was I needed to be able to teach group fitness classes because it was like my release and my therapy and like my jam. And when I came up here, it was the same thing. So I had these packed classes in the US, and then I came to Canada went into the gym, low numbers, started teaching and packed the room. And that's when he was like, okay, so it's not just a US thing, babe. Like where you go, people want to be around you and your energy and, you know, your coaching. So that was around 2006, 2007. We started kicking around the idea. I didn't say yes until 2013.
Wait. Wow.
Yes, after I had my son. And it was after having him that I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is my purpose? What are those eyeballs seeing? Are they seeing mom stressed and frustrated and overwhelmed? And because burnout happens when you're living someone else's dream and you're on someone else's path. And that was the path that I was on. And it's hard to recognize it when you're good. Like I just have that mindset that I'm going to be good at whatever I do. So I was a fantastic nurse. I was good. Like I climbed the ladder from ICU nurse to director of care, like to manager. You know, I was climbing that ladder, but I was so frustrated and burnt out in the process. And I thought, that's not how I want those little eyeballs to see me. You know, even if I fail. And what kind of the thing for me was, I was like, what if I fail? What if I fail? Like, what if I open this business and it tanks? And I thought, but at least he's going to see mom doing it because he's going to fail. And we all fail at something in our life. And at least he's going to see me doing it. And all those lessons I'm going to learn from doing it instead of saying safe and comfortable, but burnt out in this career path that I never chose.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So many things I want to talk to you about there. How did you transition then from the fitness classes through to business strategist? What was that journey like?
Yeah. So it was, I had a monthly membership, and it was always that having that next solution for where you're taking people. So I think a lot of people don't realize that you're never really creating one course or one offering. You always want to have the next thing, right? Like people will launch something and then I'm like, where are you taking them next? And they're like, I have no idea. And I'm like, no, you got to know that, because when you develop that relationship and they get those wins, they want to continue with you.
Yep.
So I had this monthly membership and I was like, okay, maybe I'll develop a course now. So I developed a 21-day course that people kind of did the membership and then they did the course. And with that had some classes and coaching and all of that. And then literally I was like, where am I going to take these people? And I'm like, okay, I'll do a mastermind. I'll do a virtual mastermind. And I launched it before I even had anything created. Like I had the idea, I had what I thought I would do, and I literally had like 6 people in it, and I was like, oh crap, well I guess I need to like follow through and do this now. And part of it was called Love and Legacy. So how to have more self-love for yourself. But then once you figure that out, your health, your vibrancy, how do you now pay it forward? What is that mark you're going to leave in the world? The legacy piece. And part of that was business. And I was like, I'm going to test this idea to even see if people want to do what I did. Do they want to learn how to build an online business? And out of all of the health, relationships, your home, business was the one that every single, all 6 of them, they were like, that was my favorite month. It was a 6-month virtual mastermind. And they're like, business was my favorite month because I want to learn more about how you did, how you got that time freedom, how you were able to be there for your son's first milestones. Like, I don't like my job. I don't like what I'm doing. I'm stressed out. I'm burnt out. And it was really realizing that that was kind of a pivotal moment for me, because I think I never stopped to realize the success that I had, because I was like, I'm not this, I was like just making 6 figures, and I was like, to me, I didn't feel like I had made it in the online world.
Right.
But these 6 people were like, I want what you have. I want to learn how to do that. Wow. And I'm like, oh, okay. So maybe I don't know everything, but I know the path that I took, and I know how to get those first wins and that first success. So I can teach you that. And I think we don't realize that you only have to be a couple steps ahead of someone to be able to teach them and take them along in the journey. So that was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, I can teach people how to do this. And then I loved coaching business, loved it, because it was self-talk, story work, and strategy. And it was just this beautiful blend of my nursing world, my health and fitness world, and now coming into business, because there's so much you need to do before you actually create that product and launch. There's so much inner work and so much stuff you need to do before you get there. And I think a lot of people miss that. They just want to launch the thing and go.
Yeah.
And there's so much that happens before.
Oh my gosh, so good. And I love how organically that happened as well. It wasn't like you were like, right, I'm going to set up this business. You went with what was needed, what these people wanted, and then you moved from there. And that's exactly the way that I've done my whole business these past 5 years. 5 years.
Amazing.
I also loved how you touched in there on, you know, those what ifs that were coming up. And I think what ifs are the single biggest killer of brilliant ideas, inspiration, and potentially massively successful businesses. So how did you keep those at bay?
I almost kind of asked, what if I didn't? Like sometimes we think about, you know, what's going to be my return on investment? And, you know, if I go and I put in all this time, what am I going to get back? And I started to think about, instead of the ROI, I call it the COI, the cost of inaction.
Nice.
So it's not about what you're doing. And if you fail, it's what are you not doing? And what is the cost and result of not doing that? And I think about, if I didn't go for it, well, I wouldn't be a best-selling author. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be an international speaker. I wouldn't be even the little things, like when we drop our son Oliver, he's 6, so he's in first grade, going to be in second grade. And the first day of kindergarten, like I remember that day, and it was my husband and I, you know, with his little backpack and his little shoes and his little white socks, and he goes to Catholic schools and he has the little uniform. And I was like, and you know, he's like turning around and giving us the little timid wave. And I'm like, oh my God, if I was working as a nurse, working shift work, I would already be at work at 7 a.m. Like I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to see this. And the teacher, Eric and I are both, you know, we work together, we're entrepreneurs, and they always say, you two are here for everything. Like you both drop him off from school, you both pick him up from school, you're at every school event. Like I never have to miss anything. And if I never just went for it, I would be missing a lot in my life. And I think that was, instead of feeding into the fear of what's the worst thing that could happen, I fed into the possibility to say, I'm going to figure this out. Like I've been I was like, I moved to a different country. I met a man in the Dominican and did a long distance relationship. Like I can do hard things, right? So I looked for the evidence that I'm resourceful. I'll figure it out. But if I don't do it, I'm going to miss out on a lot of opportunity and a lot of regret. And that was the thing that nursing really taught me. That was a huge takeaway. I was an end-of-life nurse for a while in my career. And nobody ever cares about the amount of money you make, the degrees and certifications you have behind your name. It's regret. People say, I wish I would have done that thing, or I wish I would have fixed that relationship. I wish I would have had time, or I wish I would have had that conversation. That's what people regret at the end of their life. And I didn't want any regret. It's like, if I die tomorrow, I want to be like, I'm good. I lived, right? Checkmate. I'm good.
Oh, I got goosebumps. I love that. Turn ROI into COI, cost of inaction. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. So many people just let the what ifs hold them back though, don't they? Because they're scared of what others might think. They're scared of failure.
Yeah.
Don't worry what others think. Don't worry about failure. Failure is a good thing because you can learn from it.
Yeah. And I think we think things are like and done. Like, I launched that thing and it flops, I'm done. Like, people don't remember, like, we think people remember, or I made that post and it flopped, or, you know, I had that speech and it wasn't my best. And we think these things are like end game killer, detrimental. We never have another chance. Everyone's going to remember me as the woman who fell on stage, or, you know, bombed with this. And we give people way too much credit for where their headspace and their time and their attention is at. The things that we stress about and we think are the biggest deal ever, your audience has already forgotten about it.
Mm-hmm.
They've already forgotten about it. If you keep going and you relaunch, recreate, when you don't quit, they see the comeback and they get behind that, right? Like, we think we're dead in the water if we fail something. You can just keep trying. I never call it a failure. I call it a miss.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was a miss, meaning that, like, I missed the shot in basketball. I can take another shot. Yeah. Michael Jordan didn't take a shot and miss and go, well, I guess my career's over. I'm done now. Right? You have another chance if you take it.
Yeah. I launched my group coaching program in January. Had, I think, lovely number of people in it when I first launched it in October. And I thought, yeah, this one will just be the same. You know, I'll probably get double the amount of people. Off I went to the Maldives, assuming it would sell itself, and it didn't. And I had one lady sign up, and I honored her the group price and just gave her one-to-one 12-week coaching. And I said, you know, the universe has got your back, and she is just incredible. And I shared that on social media, and I said, you know, that isn't going to get me down. Those people that I was speaking to about potentially going in the group either signed up to my online course or to my one-to-one. So it's not a failure. And then I've just launched it again and sold out. So talk about these, you know, look at the positives and the plus sides. A failure isn't a failure. Failure, in your terms, is a learning. Yeah. Also, a statistic that I love is that generally we worry about what others think 3 times greater than they actually think. So we're thinking, oh my goodness, what's so-and-so thinking? They're not even thinking about us. So I think
they're not.
Don't let those sorts of thoughts and limiting beliefs hold anybody back from just trying something.
Mm-hmm. And that one person that you did the coaching with, they could become your best client ever. They could refer people to you. Like, you don't know, because it's never just that one person. It's who do they know, and who do they know, and who do they know?
Yeah. Oh, she's doing incredible things. Like, her mindset is transformed, and she might even be listening to this. So hi, Hayley, if you are. But she is just getting incredible results. And there was never a part of me that thought, oh, well, she didn't pay the full, you know, one-to-one price. I just showed up and was just so grateful that she was there. And oh my gosh, it was brilliant.
Yeah. I think about what I like to call setting an intention versus a goal when you launch something. And for me, when I started, the same, I'm like, I'm going to launch this group coaching program. I'm going to launch this course on membership, and I want to get 30 people in it. And then the day would come, and if I got 30, I was like, yes, success, or more, right? But then if I got 1 or 2, I was like, oh my God, I only got 2. And then I had to catch myself with that experience that I'm like, 2, but 2 could be 200, 2 could refer. So now, instead of setting a number, I say, I want to get this course or membership, wherever your ebook, whatever it is you're launching, into the hearts and the hands of the people who need it the most.
Yeah.
And if that's 1 person, that is success. If that is 0 people, at least I still launched it. I got some data, and I know how to go back and tweak it again.
Yeah.
Right? I think when you don't get tied to the outcome, when you set the intention and you look at the possibility, which is what you did, that just changes your whole mindset about what is success and what is actually failure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you know, with each live post I do, with each podcast episode I record, with every social media post I do, if I can just make a small impact on 1 person, to me, that is a win, because that 1 person could change their life. That is just what makes me show up. It's what makes me record all of these episodes and give value and just hopefully motivate and inspire somebody, because that is what it's all about for me.
Yeah, and you never know when they're ready. Like, we always think we have to say the right thing. We have to have the right process and call to action and wording. And it's when they're ready. When they're ready to say yes, that's when they jump in. And if you're like, oh, well, no one's listening, no one cares, they do. When they're ready, they will jump in and say yes. So that's why you have to show up, because you don't know, you can't predict when that impact is going to hit them.
You also don't know who's watching your content and listening to your content, do you? Because you get people liking and sending you DMs and replying, but there's always the people in there that aren't replying, they're not liking, they're not commenting, but they are listening and watching and reading your every word and implementing it. And I had a lovely client who signed up to my group last October, and she said, I've been following you for months and I love everything you've done. And I said, I just don't recognize your name from social media. She said, oh no, I never like or comment, but I've seen every post that you've done. And that post you did 2 months ago was brilliant. And I thought, wow. And she's been through my group. She's signed up to my retreat. She's now doing 12 months of coaching with me. And before that, I didn't even know she was out there.
Yeah.
So showing up for the people that you don't even know are there.
Yeah, it's like, careful the stories that we make, right? Nobody's liking, so that post must have sucked, or nobody's commenting, so maybe this wasn't relevant, or you don't know. The same, I had a woman who said, I read your weekly newsletters for a year.
Wow, that's rare.
Right? And then literally commented and was like, I want to do one-to-one coaching with you. And I was like, okay, because I was like, what? You know, she got contacted me, same thing. And I'm like, what made you decide to say yes? Why now? I'd say, I don't really recognize, I don't know how our paths have crossed. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm on your, I opted into something like a year ago and I've been reading your weekly newsletters for a year. Wow. I'm like, oh my God. Right? So you don't know what's going to be that thing that makes them go, now is the time. And I want you, because I know you, I like you, I trust you, I know what you're all about. I see that you're consistent. Yeah. We want to pay and we want to work with people who are consistent, who we know they got us. And if you're wishy-washy, right? People are like, I'm not sure she's serious about this. Where'd she go? I haven't seen anything from her in a while. Right? Consistency is everything.
And just sort of touching on that from a mindset aspect, because I know you are massive on your mindset. And, for a lot of people, they might be starting out in their business and, they're showing up, they're trying to set goals, they're trying to get their message out there, change the world, do their products, do their services. But for them, they might just be having those what ifs. They might be thinking, well, I don't think anyone's watching. How can I keep showing up? What sort of mindset tips or techniques would you advise for those people?
I love that. In the beginning, it feels so big. And we hear people talk about like leveling up and shooting to the top. And sometimes that just seems so like, where is this top? And when am I ever going to get there? Right? And I always think there's a difference between contributing and consuming. So consuming means I don't know enough. I got to listen to another podcast. I got to read another book. I got to go to another event. I got to, I got to take this course. I got to hire another mentor. And I always think, what do I know right now? And what can I put out with what I know right now? So I don't want you consuming. I want you contributing. I don't want you participating. I want you producing. So we think we don't know enough. We think our stories and our teachings aren't impactful enough. You are already enough. You already have enough. You already know enough. It starts with that self-belief. That was that where I was like, okay, where's the proof? I moved to a different country. I did a long distance relationship. I worked 3 jobs when I was in college and I was able to manage my time. I was like, I know how to figure stuff out, right? Look, if you're like, oh, I don't know if I know enough. I don't know if I have enough. Look for the proof. You will find, I think Brene Brown says that, where I think it was the opposite. She was saying like, I don't want to butcher her quote, but it was something along the lines of, if you look for proof that you suck and that you're worthless and that you're stupid and that nobody likes you, you will find that.
Yeah.
But if you look for the proof that you are capable and intelligent and worthy and enough and smart and resourceful, you will find that too. So look for that and then go do something. I love live videos when you like see the camera like up somebody's nose and they're like, this is the first time I'm ever doing a live. Like, I hope I'm doing okay. And I'm like, yes, I automatically love you. Yeah. Because you're real. And we all remember what that was like to start something new, to try something new, and you love it. People have the volume off and you're like, turn your volume on, right? Then they get it and you're like, yes. And you will listen to every word they say because they're not trying to be somebody they're not. Yeah. You are already enough. You already have enough. You can go do a live video. You can do a social media post. You can write an email. You can share, something of value. And it's not for you to judge whether it's valuable or not. Your job is to put it out.
Yeah.
Your job is to put it out.
I think so many people as well, they just assume that their knowledge is basic and they just say, yeah, but I know how to do this thing, this thing or these tasks. Nobody else cares. Or surely they know how to do that as well. And a lot of the time I think, no, they don't.
No, they don't. The woman who read my newsletter, so Deanne, I love you dearly if you're listening as well. So when we got on, like the first, one-to-one, we did all this like strategy work. Literally the second one-to-one, she's like, I don't know how to use Dropbox. And we're like, what? And she's like, I don't know how to like create folders and like organize things. And we were like, oh, and she's like, could you help me like do that? And we literally like helped her figure out Dropbox. And she was like, oh my God, you have no idea like how much stress this like took out of my life. And we're like, really? Figured out Dropbox? We're like, okay. So something that you're right, something that you just know and that you do might be a big hiccup in somebody's life or their business.
Yeah.
Even the most basic, simple thing can save someone so much time. And time is that currency that you won't get back. So when you can save people time, you are always employable. Always employable.
There's another exercise that I really love doing with my clients, and it's called an epic list, just because I love the word epic. And it's basically 10 things that make you so super proud of things you've done, things you've overcome, things you've achieved. It might be in their life, in their business. It might have been when they were at school or college. And it's basically a list so that whenever they have a wobble or feel like they can't do something, I say, well, look at that list. You've done those 10 amazing things and you're telling me you can't do an Instagram live. I mean, come on, I'm calling that one out. And I think that's such a powerful exercise. Again, we just take all these things for granted and just assume that, everybody else can do those things. Yeah, it's fine, I did that. Brush it under the carpet. And I'm like, no, we've got to celebrate all of these achievements, not just brush it under the carpet. Because when we recognize that we can do all those things, yes, we can write an email campaign and do a live and sign a new client on a discovery call. Yes, of course we can. So it's just finding those little things to help boost them up, isn't it? And make them realize that they absolutely can do something.
Yeah, and I think something that came up for me when you were talking is like, I call them out on, X, Y, and Z. Sometimes we think entrepreneurship is a solo sport, and it's not. Accountability partners, mentors, good friends. Like I have good friends who aren't entrepreneurs. Like I think like my friend Shanley, who does my hair, my hairdresser. So I guess she's kind of an entrepreneur-ish, right? She's a hairdresser, works out of her home. But anyway, she will like, if I'm like telling her something about business and I say something, she'll be like, that's bullshit. I don't know if I can curse on your thing. She'll be like, that's crap. She'll be like, that's crap. I don't believe that. Or like, I'll say that to her, whether it's a friend, a coach, a mentor, a peer, a group you're in. Get around people that are going to challenge you on your crap. Yes. Because sometimes you have blinders and you can't see it. and it's a limiting belief, it's a story, it's been something that you've been running with for a while, and maybe you A, haven't recognized it, or B, no one's ever lovingly called you on your crap, or lovingly said, have you ever thought like maybe that could be different? Like, do you still want to run with that? Is that belief serving you? Kind of thing. And I think we forget that we don't have to do this alone. We don't have to do this alone, right?
I've got an amazing little group of sort of business besties, and we've got a WhatsApp group, and anytime anyone's having a wobble, they post in there. We like cheerlead each other, we share our wins, we like when we hit our goals, we share it in there, and it's so nice having that. But sometimes, it's just having somebody who isn't emotionally connected to your business. They can look from the outside and say, well, what are you doing? Why have you not done that? Or why are you doing it that way? And it's just that fresh pair of eyes, isn't it? You can't do everything. You can't be the eyes, the ears, the face, the behind the scenes, the PR, the marketing, the coach, the everything. You just can't do everything. And while you might wear all the hats in the early stages of a business, it's not sustainable. You can't keep going. And it's just have somebody to bounce ideas off of and to say, what do you think about this idea? Is it a complete flop? And I think that is so powerful, sort of having that support network, isn't it? And just having somebody to keep you sane at the end of the day.
Totally. I love that you keep calling it a wobble. I'm like, oh my God, I love that image of a wobble. It is, right? We think it's a complete crash and fail, death, done, dead, die. It's not. It's a wobble, meaning what do you do when you wobble? You find your footing, or you fall and you get back up, right? Yeah. So I love that term, a wobble. I've never heard it called that before, but I love that so much. It really, again, that's mindset. It's not a crash. It's not a burn. It's a wobble.
I love that. Maybe that's a British thing.
Is it? I was going to say, is that a British thing, a wobble?
I'm not sure. Maybe you can make it be a Canadian thing as well now.
We'll bring it over. I love it. I love it.
I remember when we first spoke for your podcast, and we were both sort of talking about how we have organically grown our businesses using social media before investing in paid ads, which is something that is so close to my heart. And I think so many people just suddenly want to throw money at something. And yes, Facebook and Instagram ads, Google AdWords are amazing when used properly. But I truly believe that you should try and grow your business organically first. So what would be your sort of little top tips for somebody who's just thinking, how on earth do I even start in this minefield of marketing and social media and PR and everything else? What would be like really simple tips that you could give somebody that they could start to implement immediately?
So people need to see your face, which is why Facebook is called Facebook, right? And IGTV or YouTube, or you could get lost in the sea of platforms. So I always tell people, pick one and be super consistent with it. So you're like, Instagram's going to be my jam, right? Or Facebook Live's going to be my jam. Now, when you get more seasoned, you can show up on different platforms. You can cross post and cross promote. You can have an assistant that does that for you. But in the beginning, pick one platform and show your face. Live video is still the best. The way social media works, as we know, it's called time on platform. The more that people stay on your stuff, the more that you're visible and grow. And that's what we want with organic. We want to organically people to see us. Video is still the number one best way to do that. Go on video. But go on video with a strategy, right? So again, a newbie kind of mistake that I see a lot of times is people will just hit record. And sometimes if you're just starting out this way, good on you for just hitting record and talking. Sometimes that is the first step, as we say, to doing it. But a big no-no that I see is people will hit record and then they'll start like fluffing their hair and like getting set up. And then 20 seconds has gone by. And then they're like, oh, hey, Lisa, I'm going to wait for a few more people to hop on. No, because you're sending the message. Remember back to that one person? Hi, Lisa's here. I'm watching you. You have my attention, which is so slim nowadays. You got to get right in and you got to get to the goods. You got to start talking. Don't fluff your hair. If your hair, I know you can't see me because we're on a podcast, but if your hair is like this at the beginning, whip it off and keep going. If it's like in your eyes, right? Get yourself prepared. And when the first listener comes on or the first viewer comes on, get right into the goods. Number 2, tell them what you're talking about. So, hey, it's Lisa. Today I'm going to be talking to you about, 3 steps to launch, or how to go live on Facebook, how to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Again, when it's like, hey guys, happy Tuesday. So glad you're here. Again, people are like, why am I here? What am I listening to? You got to give them a reason to stay. So get right into the goods. Tell them exactly what you're talking about. And if video, if you're like, oh my God, I feel like I want to vomit when I think about going live on video, right? Start with your posts of you showing your face. Now, not a duck face selfie that has no content to it, but you somewhere in the world that has significance, meaning, something that you can tell a story about. So we love story. That's why we love movies and books and, amazing things that we tune into that grab our Netflix, that grab our attention, right? Even like Tiger King, that whole rage that started in the beginning of pandemic. It's because the characters were so like out of this world. It was a good story. It was a train wreck, but it was a good story. That's what drew you to it. So start by showing your face, posting a picture, and telling a story that has some sort of teaching. I mean, it's pretty interesting when you think about, you can make a story out of anything. Like, you can literally make a story out of anything if you're open to it and you think about it. It's like, I could make a story about my coffee cup and have a teaching point, that comes into it. We overthink what we share. But I think the biggest mistake we make is we disrespect the people that are there by not getting right into the goods. And we take lovely pictures of Instagram worthy pictures, but we're on social media, or we're on there to connect. We want to see people. We want to see your life. We want to know what you're doing and who you are. And that's what makes us do business with you. So don't be afraid to get on video, to show your face, to get in with the goods. Always make sure there's a story and some sort of teaching with it. And I like to go back. This is really hard to do in the beginning. I still kind of struggle with it. I'll go back and rewatch. Like, I'll rewatch my lives. I'll rewatch my webinars. Almost like in sports when they have the playback tape. Yeah. I'll go back and watch what I did and how I did it. I never realized when I first started, I said like every 3 seconds. I'm like, da 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 da, and like, da 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 da. It's like, da da da. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I say like so much. You'll catch your own self. You'll know where you need to change when you go back and you rewatch it. So that's another thing that I do too.
That's genius. That is a really good idea. And I've never done that. I do a lot on video, and my husband often comes in the evening and he'll start playing my videos next to me. And I hate how my voice sounds, because it sounds so different in my ears when he plays it on a video than it does in real life. And I'm thinking, do I actually sound like that? It really annoys me, but that would be a really good exercise. And then again, we're watching it and we're learning from it. And if you see something that annoys you when you watch it back, your followers probably won't even notice, but you will be conscious of it. And then you can just make sure that you'll keep showing up and you keep getting better. And that's the thing, especially with video. I think the first video, the first Facebook Live I ever did, I didn't breathe. I genuinely didn't breathe. And again, I had no purpose. I don't know even what I was talking about. I didn't breathe. And I finished the live and I thought, oh my God. And I just felt the need to breathe. And I thought, holy shit, I can't do that again. I'll be on the floor. Yeah, practice makes perfect. And just sort of following on from the video tips that you shared, I only ever share sort of 3 to 5 learnings So if I'm doing a video about content creation or writing a press release or your mindset, 3 to 5 learnings. Again, introduce the video. Today I'm going to give you 3 tips to enhance your mindset. Go through the tips, recap, job done. This isn't a big sales spiel. This isn't, life story. This isn't, I'm going to overwhelm you with 25 things you should be doing right now. People will get overwhelmed. People won't take action. Keep it short, keep it sweet, and make sure that you're creating your content for your follower, not for yourself.
Yes, 100%. And I always tell them, ask a question. Even if you're like, I don't know what they want, ask them, did this video serve you? Was this what you were looking for? Is there something that came up in the video that you need more clarification on, or you want to know more about? There is your content for your next video. Or sometimes people say, nobody commented. You maybe didn't give them a reason to. Like, have you guys ever struggled with this? Ask them a question. Get them engaged in what you're talking about, and ask them. They want to tell you what they want and what they need and what they're thinking and what they're feeling.
I always encourage people to DM me, because I think so often people would actually be scared, especially when it's mindset stuff. They'd actually be scared to put that out in public on a post. And I said, DM me. And I did an Instagram story a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what do you guys want to see? You let me know what you want. I will do a post about it, do a video about it. I'll do a podcast about it. And somebody said, I've just set up my business. I feel overwhelmed. Can you help? And I did a podcast on things to consider when you're setting up a business. I think it was 6 steps, 20-minute podcast episode, job done. And then I messaged her and I said, just filmed or recorded a podcast episode about this for you. So I think people are so scared to reach out, particularly when we're business owners and they think, oh, well, she won't answer. She's got enough going on. She's not going to be interested in. No, reach out. We are lovely people, aren't we? I mean, aren't our DMs always open?
Yes. And it shows that you care, which is a big miss, I think, sometimes if you're at that point where you're like rehearsing and practicing and you know what you want to say, it becomes a bit mechanical.
Yeah.
And the audience loses that feeling that you actually care. So when you say DM me, I'll create content around whatever it is you need. It shows that you're genuinely interested in your audience and you genuinely care, which we do. So yeah. I love, we are lovely. And I love when someone says to me, create something on this. I'm like, I don't have to think about that anymore. Thank you for giving me, thank goodness. Because some days you think, what am I going to talk about today? What am I going to create content on today?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a podcast on top 5 things you need to know before you hire a VA.
Oh, brilliant.
And the same people said that was the most amazing podcast. That was so helpful. Okay. I never would have thought that would have been so impactful. So again, back to, you don't know what people need, things we take for granted. Yeah.
And I think also from the sort of our followers, listeners' perspective, for them, when they're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know how to create content, look to your DMs, look to the questions you get when people try to buy from you or when they want to know more about your service. Somebody DMs you and they say, can you tell me a bit more about this package or this product you've got? Because I just don't know if it's the right fit for me. There's a piece of content you need to create. Use any questions you get as guidance to create content, whether that's a post, a live, a story, a highlights reel on Instagram maybe. Always use that to guide your content creation.
Another mindset myth too is people think that's not original content to me, or that's already been done. Ideas are shared, but your perspective on it is unique to you. So I could listen to your podcast about the 5 things to setting up your business, and I could create a whole content on, I listened to Tara's podcast, here were the 5 tips that she talked about. Tip number 3, though, really hit home for me, and here's why. Or tip number 2, I actually didn't agree with. Here's how I would do it if I could go back and do it again. When you can piggyback off someone else's content, as long as A, if you are literally going to share something from them, give them credit, don't steal it.
Yeah.
But B, you then talk about your personal take on it. Things that are going on, if you choose to, maybe the positive things or the negative things in the media, something you see on the news. I don't watch a lot of the news or the media, but like it's just a bottomless pit of craziness if you go down there. But sometimes there's a good piece, some good that's been done in the world. You can create content around that. So you don't always have to create. I think a myth is that we think we have to create original, new, amazing content every single day. You don't.
No.
You don't. And the other thing people don't remember a lot of times, when you repurpose content, change the picture, change the quote. Sometimes in my podcast, I do a throwback episode. I think I'm on 156 episodes or so, because I've been doing it for almost 3 years. And sometimes I'll be like, throwback to episode 7, when I had this mindset expert on and we talked about X, Y, and Z. Here we are 3 years later, but it's still relevant.
Absolutely.
People love it. They love it.
And think about, your new followers, they won't have seen it back then. They won't have heard it back then. Even if you've got new followers now and there was a piece of content you did 6 months ago and it absolutely went down a storm, your new people haven't seen or heard it yet. So share it. I also have a notes section in my phone, and anytime I see a quote or a statistics or an idea or a phrase or something, and I just think, oh, that would make a brilliant bit of content, I put it in the notes section of my phone. And it's called Post Ideas, and there must be 50 pieces of ideas in there. But when I come to create my content, if I can't think of anything, I've got this whole bank of ideas and stats and quotes and phrases and things I've read and things I've learned from books and podcasts and YouTube videos, and it's just so much there. And again, I then add my twist on it. I add my story and how I'm using this piece of content or this stat or quote, and then I make it my own. Obviously quoting whoever or wherever I heard it. But that's just a brilliant way to make content creation so much easier.
Mm-hmm. That is brilliant. 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 Oh, I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
So where do you find your inspiration? Is there a podcast you love? Is there a book? What is it that you do when you're feeling the need for some motivation or some inspiration?
I'm a mover and a shaker. So I know that if I'm in a rut or I'm like stuck or something's eating at me or something as simple as I don't know what I want to write my next blog post about, I will move. So the first thing I do is I get up, I walk around the block. If it's raining like it is today, I walk up and down the stairs. I walk around the house. I have a Peloton. I'll jump on my bike. I get so much inspiration from moving. That's my first. Second, my hands have to touch something that is not a keyboard or a screen. I will journal. I will adult color. It's got a piano. This is my new, I don't know how to play the piano, but I'm going to learn. This is my new adult thing. So my fingers should start hitting the keys. We forget about how much creative goodness there is in the world when you get away from the screen. Staring at a blank social media post, staring at a blank piece of paper, that's not the best way to hope that inspiration comes to you. So I move, I touch. I'm a really hands-on learner. So that's the first thing I do. Second, my current mentor is Bo Eason. Shout out to Bo. I love him dearly. He is a speaker and storytelling coach. Wow. And I listen to one of his online YouTube videos. I have his book I'll go back to. He gifted us books from Stephen Pressfield is the author, and it's called War of Art and Turning Pro are 2 books. And he also gave us this book called The Little Book of Talent. And the reason why I love those books is because the chapter is 1 page. So you can literally read a page a day, or you can read a complete chapter, a complete thought in 1 page. So I will go grab one of those 3 books as well, and I'll just read. It's like a little paragraph, and that's a whole chapter, a whole thought on something. And then back to what we were talking about. What did that spark up for me? How can I take my own take on what that author wrote and make it my own and go share something?
I love that. And I love when you say, taking your hands away from technology, isn't it? You sit down and go, right, I'm going to write this amazing post. And then you get writer's block. And I'm exactly the same. I need to be out with my dog or on my horse or driving. It's whenever I can't really write anything down and the subconscious kicks in, and then I get all of these brilliant ideas. But it's just taking your pressure off, isn't it? It's sort of a pattern interrupt almost. Get out from your desk or from your laptop or from your phone, or get out and go for a walk, go in nature, just step away for a moment, take the pressure off. And that's when the creative juices will flow.
You got it. You got it. You got it. Or I know, go back to Brene Brown. She calls it the SFD, the shitty first draft. And I love, that's always stuck with me too. Because again, we think that everything that comes out has to be this perfect, motivating, inspiring. Sometimes crap comes out on the paper. Write it, walk away, come back, and maybe if you only pull one line out of that, one phrase out of that, you're not staring at a blank page. You still have something there. Whether you scrap it, you use it, you tweak it, it's still the action of doing something too.
Oh, I love it. That's so good. Okay, one last little piece of wisdom that I would like for you. What one piece of advice would you love to share with the world?
Ooh, well, that's a loaded question. One piece of advice. I think it would be when you tie your goals to someone else. Yes, we do it for ourselves, but when you have a why, our why is typically always something that we want better in our life. But when you can think of how someone else's life is going to be impacted when you do the thing that you're so afraid to do, that is what gets you to actually take that step, write that thing. I do a lot of now with COVID, I do a lot of camera work, and people say to me, how do you connect with someone on camera? It's not the same. It's not like when I'm speaking live or I'm with people. I feel so awkward connecting this little round circle. And I say, you have to think about a person when you're doing camera work or anything where you're not connected to an audience. And I think about, so my son Oliver is 6. I think about talking to Oliver, but I don't think about talking to 6-year-old Oliver. I think about talking to 18-year-old Oliver, 20-year-old Oliver, 25-year-old Oliver. I have to be so intentional about my message. I can't fluff it off. I can't phone it in. He's got to get this because he is my son and I want him to succeed and I want him to be happy and healthy and live this amazing life. So I got to make sure I'm dialed in. I think about talking to 18-year-old Oliver. Tie it to when someone else gets it. How is their life going to change? Oh. And that's always stuck with me. Like, why am I doing this? Who am I talking to? And who needs to get it?
I love that. What a way to end. Oh my goodness. What an action-packed episode as well. Thank you so much, Lisa. Where can our lovely listeners and followers find you? And I'll pop all of your links in the show notes, but where can they find you?
Yeah, so if you search anything of my name, so my website is www.lisapezik, PEZIK.com. You can find all sorts of goodies on my website. There's a free 3-part mini video series about talking about your purpose, your platform, and your product. And it goes back to that purpose. And if you search my name, you can find all sorts of goodies there. I just want to say thank you for having me. Time flies. Time flies when you're having fun. I just feel like I could talk to you for hours. So thank you for having me.
Likewise. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We will have to do another one because we've just got so much to talk about. And when you manage to get those live events in 2021, either in Canada or the West Coast, I'm so coming out. Oh my goodness. Thank you so, so much. You have been an absolute ray of light and energy and motivation and inspiration for my audience. So thank you so much. It has been such an honor to speak to you today.
Thank you.